This video was brought to you by YugiohMint.com. Check out their selection of over 20,000 cards and prices better than TCG Player.
Alright, what's up YouTube? MQ40 here. I wanted to finally give you guys a little bit of a look at what I'm testing for Luard. So, first off guys, check out YugiohMint.com down below in the description. It would be a great help to me. Mike Load has been a really big supporter of this channel, helped me out get a lot of the stuff for this deck. So I'd like you guys to check out his shop. If you guys ever need anything, feel free to buy from him. He's got Yugioh Vanguard, pretty much anything that you guys could be looking for. So please check out YugiohMint.com down below. So, first off, also shout out to Ryan Kai. A lot of you American players might not know him, but he's a very good player from Singapore. Actually, this build is pretty much his. There might be one or two changes, but I wanted to talk about some of the overall card interactions that this deck has. Some of the things I might change, some of my overall interactions with this deck. So, that's what we're here to discuss. So, first off, a lot of you guys might be thinking about the starter and going, this card's actually just trash. Compared to your current Pool Shadow Paladin stuff, this gets your Ritual Engine going one step faster, also fuels into the Soul, which is actually two things that this deck wants to do. So for those of you that don't know, just put in the Soul, choose a normal unit from your hand, discard it, look at the top card of your deck, put it either on the top or the bottom of the deck, and then draw a card. And if there's a face-up card in your G-Zone, choose one of your units that gets 5k power. One of the problems that this deck often has can be lack of Soul. I'm going to be completely honest with you. That's why I've been playing Howl. But overall, loads is in the Soul, discards a possible one or more Fespa, depending on the early stages of the game to get the engine going. So, in my opinion, it's probably one of the better ones. I mean, I guess you can play Creeping Dark Goat, but your counterblast management can be shit too. So, for Luard, this card is actually well, the first up, until Gear Chronicle and Seven Seas Rush gets answered in some way, this deck will be a high tier 1.5 deck. The ability to have Ritual just return 2 units to Stride every turn for fucking free is ridiculous. And his Break Stride just kind of blast 1, choose a unit, retire it, and call 2 grade 1s from your deck. You know, typically your first play is Swordbreaker. Like, the amount of advantage that this card generates is just ridiculous. So, as long as you see this card, you are fine. Next up, I never thought I would play Bataka again, but at a stage in the game where you're setting up combo and things like this, 9k, call the top card of the deck. And in some weird scenario, if you go Bataka into Bataka, you know, you can create an infinite scenario. I don't know, it's just an advantage in itself. But who doesn't like free advantage? So, 2 of this, and then the last, grade 3, 1 Claret Sword. You get access to the criticals, you get an additional Break Stride skill to basically do what you want to do. So, this is it for your grade 3 lineup. I mean, yeah, you can go to 3 if you, or 8 if you want, but I think that this is fine. So, what else does this deck do? Alright, so 4 more Fespa. Counts as a grade 1 in the drop zone. Also Ritual 3 when it attacks Vanguard. Until the end of the battle it gets 5,000 power, so this thing's 14k on its own. And you can counterblast 1 when this unit attack hits, and you place cost reduce, search deck for a grade 1 card, and call it to rear guard. But it's an additional grade 1 in the drop zone. So 14k attacker by itself. We have a 7k behind it that's 21. This deck hits numbers very hard. This card is actually a ridiculous powerhouse. Next up, 2 copies of the 9k. Actually, I was against this card when I first saw it, because I was like, it doesn't do anything, but I let you choose a card from your hand, discard it. Once placed on rear guard, if the number of rear guards you have is more than your opponent's, you just get to draw a card. Once again, additional filtering to set up Ritual. It might not seem like you really need that, but in the early stages of the game to make sure that you get to where you need to be. I mean, we're also playing stuff like this, so keep that in mind. But once you get this online for Ritual, Oh man, it's actually so good. Also, getting one card further into the stack is really good. Additional grade 2s. One Skull Witch. Counterblast 1, discard 1. Draw 2. I mean, discard that 1. It's pretty much the same thing as this, but with 6,000 less power and let you draw an additional card. So, I can fuck with that. And then, I know I've seen a lot of discussions on this card. But if this card is... Okay. First off, this card gains 3k until the end of the turn when a grade less than this card is placed on rear guard. Just keep that in mind. But if my opponent's swinging into this, it's one less attack I have to guard on the Vanguard. I get a 9k attacker on my turn that can go into 12 or, you know, even 15. So it's actually not a terrible scenario. I think a lot of people discount the fact that this actually just puts taunt on the Vanguard because your opponent wants to kill these things as soon as possible. And it's not like 90% of your deck isn't recyclable. For Perfect Shields, I'm playing this one. This is the recyclable. I would argue that Karma Collector is better. Depends on the scenario. These aren't that hard to set up to recycle, especially as the deck gets thinner. It's one of the things I kind of like about this deck. Though, as I said, Karma Collector is a very good card. I understand that. Counterblast management is important. But for the time being, we're still testing these. Definitely, I can see why this is better at times. It's just better the later the game goes. And your deck should be able to burst down the opponent pretty free. 2 Stride Fodders. I mean, you're striding for free every turn, so, I mean, this helps set up for the later game. Also, if you need Claret Sword, you know, you have access to him. 1 copy of Miss Drag Wizard Knives. So 2k from deck for Ritual 3. Counterblast 1. Pop the rear guard in the same column as it. At the end of the battle in which it boosted, you get to draw a card. So, you know, get to recycle more Fespas. But, I mean, it's a 1 of 7k. Goes to 9k when you call it from the deck. It's definitely worth it as a 1 of. I mean, you can dedicate the slot to it. Also, additional draw power. 1 copy of the same thing as the grade 2. Once again, just you have these set up together, you can create power columns. But one of the important things is, once again, this will detour your opponent to want to kill this and dedicate a skill to it instead of answering a real problem. 2 copies of Swordbreaker. No explanation. This card's so good. Next up, 2 copies of my boy Black Chain. Just fucking being able to get 5k when you're on Diablo is pretty fucking good. Sorry, it's like, it seems like I'm reading these. I'm getting a refresher and trying to remind you guys of things as well. But Black Chain, Diablo Vanguard 5k, making it so that your opponent has even more of a hard time guarding. Also, fuck G-Guardians for that thing. 3 Owls. I would argue that 4 is good. It's a mandatory search when it's sacked by a Vanguard skill. As long as your Vanguard has Luard in its name, you get to countercharge 1. So it's your countercharge engine in the deck. Obviously, 3 to 4 is going to be mandatory, but also being able to search from the top of the deck, top 7 for Luard. Pretty fucking good. Alright, triggers. 2 Grim Reaper, OG best crit. 2 of my Zeke from Zoids. 4 of the crit for Claret Sword. I mean, if you're on it, you have access to these for the whole game. That's pretty good. So 8 crits. 2 draw triggers. Once again, soul management can be hard in this deck. I'll let you fix that, which is pretty cool. I will give this card a lot of credit. 2 of the stand trigger. Ruffle, LOL, random stand trigger. Double sacrifice goes back to the deck, which is pretty fucking good for some of the shit that this deck can do. So 2 stands and then 4 heal triggers. So that is the main deck. Now, with being able to stride for free every turn with our boy Luard here, a lot of free shit happens. So let's talk about Drag Driver. Now, a lot of people hate this card. I understand why a lot of people hate this card, because this thing takes a Soul Blast 1. Basically, it's Soul Blast 1, choose to face down, card from your G-Zone, turn to face up. Yes, we all know this. You may pay its cost if you do. If the number of grade 1 cards from your deck equal to the number face up of these in your G-Zone, and call them to separate cards. And for each grade 1 in your drop zone, those unit gets 1,000 power. So if you're like 7 cards in deep, everything that you call gets fucking 7,000 power. But the fact that he's Soul Blast 1 could be a pain in the ass. But for generating advantage, he's definitely a good first turn stride if you don't need to do the Swordbreaker thing. So having the Swordbreaker engine in the deck is pretty good for additional resourcing. So, 4 Draggies. Next up, 2 Spectral Blaster once again, Soul Blast 1, turn on the engine. You have a Restanding Vanguard, which is pretty good. Next up, 4 Diablo. I know a lot of people prefer only 2, but the same reason why I prefer 4 next stage. I just want to make sure I can get the job done. It's a 10k plus for 1 counterblast, flipping up a copy of itself. You don't have to sacrifice 3, which is one of the cooler things about this, to force out definitely extra resources. So keep that in mind. It's definitely a powerhouse though in this deck. Next up, 1 Grim, 1 Desperado Dragon. No real explanation here. I mean, you can cut this for if Celine, the one that lets you retire, gain power. I just like being able to call out if I need it. And then this card, just retire 1. Your opponent chooses 2 of his rear guards and retires them. If not, your whole front row gets 4k. It's pretty good. And then last but not least, the G-Zone. The stupid G-Guardian that's broken as hell, 25. And then 1 Dismal just for protection on a rear guard if you need it. You can replace this with a Gleam. You can play Ludwig if you really want to. But it's kind of player preference at this stage in the game. So, what are thoughts on this? Until 7 Seas and Gear Chronicle gets touched, as I said, this will be a high, very high 1.5 deck. This deck can handle a lot of situations. The advantage it generates is really insane. I might possibly change out this engine. I'm not quite sure about this yet. I liked what it was doing in testing. Just being able to punch higher numbers. While your hand can generate advantage. Deck needs better soul management, which it kind of sucks. I would like to see better counterblast management too. Obviously Karma Collectors and this can tag up, but I mean it's not like this can't call out the recycle perfect shield, but it's very gimmicky at times, but I like what the deck does. So for a Gen Break deck, it's one of the better ones in my opinion. But yeah guys, remember, check out YugiohMint.com down below. Tell me what you guys think about this. I know a lot of people in our opinion have had a lot of strong opinions about Luard. I don't disagree with a lot of them, but I think a lot of them need to be revalued, especially the Swordbreaker one. It's not like your deck has to produce Swordbreaker, but some matchups it's good, some matchups it's not. And it's 2 cards in your deck, so it's not like you can't just call them out, no effects, if you need to do something else in the deck. But for a deck that has multiple skill trees already built into it, there's definitely a lot of things that you could do with this, which is one of the cool things about the deck. So, alright guys, I'm out. Later.